Alright, so the way that JavaScript works is it works by putting on attributes in HTML. So in this one, we'll do an on-click attribute. So this will now fire whenever any of these athlete cards are clicked. So this is what bumps off the JavaScript. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a function which we can do in JavaScript called toggle card. And the parameter that we'll give it, this might look a little strange, mainly because it's literally called this. And what this does is it's just when you click, so there'll be 5 cards, right? So this will get the data of the actual card that you clicked. So whatever is triggering the trigger event. Okay? I think that's probably somewhat of a convoluted explanation, but best I could do. Alright, so what else we'll give these is we'll give it a data attribute. So data attributes in HTML are done by data colon and then whatever attribute you want, which we want one for the x-axis and one for the y-axis, whatever those are. So if we choose deadlift and clean and jerk, we'll have data deadlift and then data dash clean and jerk. And the point of these is they can actually store the data of what the value is. So it's just the x-axis, right? Oh, it's athlete, and then we want to get the key of x-axis in there. And then we'll do the same thing for y-axis here too. So we'll just copy and paste this. Okay, y-axis and y-axis. And the reason that we're doing this is because when we create the JavaScript, which we'll do right now, we can now reference these. So the way to store JavaScript in HTML is we'll have script tags. And then all of our JavaScript will go between these script tags. So what are we going to have? We're going to have a function called toggle card. And you notice these aren't really syntax highlighted here. Normally these are if you have like a .js file, but since we're doing this directly in a Python string, at least for right now, that's why it's like that. So let's see, does toggle card? Yes, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it takes card as a parameter. And then we're going to have to escape those two. So we'll do the same thing as we did with CSS. We'll just double those up. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to access the card, and the card will have an attribute on it called the class list that we can directly access, and these are all the HTML classes that we have in there. And then what we can do is we can use toggle, and this will simply toggle a class on there or subtract it from there if we're deselecting, and we'll just call it clicked, and then that's all it's going to do. And then the reason that we'll do that is we will do we'll insert another CSS here called athletecard.clicked. So this will fire only if the element has both the athlete card and the clicked attribute, the clicked classes on there. And it'll just put in another background and just put in this is kind of a yellowish border to it. So let's save that. And key error x-axis. What did I do? Okay. Here, these are not supposed to be in quotes because where x-axis is a variable. It's not an actual key. By having it in quotes, it's looking for an actual key. Hence the key error. So save that. And okay, it's back. So let's see what we have. Okay, so you see if we can select these, we can deselect these. Alright, so that's the first bit that's a little bit cool. So it's applying this class called clicked here. Oh, another thing to notice is the script tag should actually be out here. Alright, okay. So now for updating the stats, what we'll do is we'll create another div. Yeah, you guessed it. And this will have the class stats summary. And again, it'll have that so that we can style that later. So stats summary. And then close that. Before we forget, it's easier just to close it now, believe me, rather than hunting for divs here. Alright. And we'll do h4. We'll call this stats title. And then this, we're just going to say selected total or something like that. And then slash h4. So we'll close that. And we will do basically a very similar thing to what's up here. So we'll take that. We want to do a set label again, and then yeah, it'll be label. Oh, we want the word total, so I'll hold Alt on the keyboard to get multiple cursors. Total. And then this will be so this we're gonna want to, not this right here, but we're gonna want to target this value from within the JavaScript, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to give it an ID here. And the ID attribute is meant to be, this will be unique throughout the page, is what's expected when you do that. So we'll call this x-axis total. So this way we can get this from the JavaScript. So right now we'll initialize it as 0, and then in the JavaScript we'll search for this ID here and we'll update it from here. So let's copy this. Don't need this right here. And we'll call this y-axis total. And we also want one here for the total number of athletes. So we'll say total athletes. And this will be, let's call it athlete count. Then we can remove this thing here. Oh, we want that T there. Want that T there. Alright, so you know what, let's actually have that before the script, because it's good practice to have any JavaScript appear at the bottom of the page instead. Alright, so it'll trigger on the same event when we select one of the cards, right? So we already have something for that with the toggle card. Now we'll call this update stats, and this will be another function that we have. So function update stats, and same thing, we'll have to close it. And then so okay, let me take a look at the notes here for this. Okay. So the way we declare a variable in JavaScript is by using the const keyword. Well, there are a couple ways to declare a variable. Const means we don't expect the value to change over the course of this function, which is true, because whenever another card is selected, this function is just going to fire again. So what we want is we want basically all of these selected cards to be in here, right? So the way that we can do that is by document dot query selector all. So this will select everything that has certain classes in it. So we want everything with athlete card and the dot clicked. So we put those together like that. Alright. Should be good for that. And then we'll create another const, and this will be the stats summary. And this will be equal to the document dot this one we're actually going to do a different one. Okay, I see what we're doing here. Get element by ID. And this will be the stats summary. We could just select on the class, but it's generally not great practice since we could have multiple elements with that. And so the stat summary, we only have a class here, so we'll also give it an ID. Say ID equals stat summary. We'll camel case that just to make it a little bit more to distinguish it a little bit. Alright, so we have that now. So one of the other ways to declare variables in JavaScript is by using the let keyword. We usually use this if we expect a value to change throughout the course of the function. In this case we do, so we want an x-axis total. Should have semicolons, by the way, since it is JavaScript. Although I don't think it actually yells at you for that, but it's good practice to have that. We should put that up here too. And then, so what do we have next? Okay, so we have all of these, we'll plural that, selected cards. We have all the selected cards right now, right? Okay, so we'll say selected cards. So this is an array right now. So what we can do, we can iterate through it in JavaScript. We can say for each. And then we can use an arrow function to be able to say like what variable that we want. It's a little bit strange syntax. So each variable is going to be card, and then we'll use what's called an arrow operator to basically say in this next code block we want to be able to reference this card here. And again, we're going to need to escape that. So we'll put that, and then in this one we'll have bracket bracket. And then so the x-axis total, we're going to add the card, and then the data set will be, that'll get the actual data attributes that we've specified above, right? So these ones right here. So this data set, everything that has everything that has the x-axis. So if it's deadlift, for example, we're going to access every data attribute that refers to the x-axis. And we'll do, to make sure that this is again good practice, just to make sure that everything that we have is converted to a float. So if we have any fractional values, so we'll say parseInt, and then we'll do the same thing for the y-axis. So just change these here. Okay, and then so now we have these calculated, right? So document dot, we'll find the element by the ID that we want to update. So in this case, it's going to be x-axis total, which I don't know if we've defined as an ID, so we might need to do that. Okay, we do have x-axis total and y-axis total, great. And then, so this will get us the element. So we want to access the actual text content on there, which is going to be the text that's being output in those span tags. And we want to set that to be equal to the x-axis total. And then again, we'll do the same thing for the y-axis. And then lastly, what we want is we want the number of selected athletes. So what did I name that ID up here? Athlete count. So we want to do this, and we want to get the number of cards that we have, right? That'll be the easiest way to do that. So what we can do is we can reference that variable, so selected cards, and then say get the length attribute, which is going to get how much it is. And again, I need to put semicolons on. Oh gosh. Programming Python for long enough, you forget about semicolons. Alright, so let's see what we got from that. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, first of all, it's black text again. So, okay, let's work on putting on some CSS. Alright, so just like before, I just copy and pasted in one CSS for stats summary, stats title, and stats value. If you're following along, by the way, these will all be in my GitHub, so you can just copy and paste everything. I also noticed that stat label here, I never actually put in a closing quote after those, so let me just go ahead and do that. And also stats value here, that's not something that I'm using. So let's go ahead and on these spans down here, let's use this class for stats value. And also stats value down here as well. Okay, now let's bring that over and see what we got. Okay, so it does properly add it up. Let me see if I forgot something else. Oh, well, but since we have 3 here now, we want to put in another break line first of all. Okay, so that'll give us that. Now I'm seeing we have stats title here. Let me just check my notes. Oh. Okay, I am using stats title here. Okay. Alright, let's see what we have for right now. So if we want age right now, so let's do deadlift, and let's do a different one. Let's do snatch. Alright, so 665, 250, 225. Alright. Alright. Seems to work. And that's a deadlift, so it should be highest. So if we go to something like, let's go to a 400-meter run. Yeah, 12 seconds. Yeah, that guy wishes. That's looks to be an outlier. 1 second. Okay, well that does look to work though. If we do something like a 5K run and set the lower bound as 20 minutes is pretty fast. I think it is, at least. And then set 3,000 as the upper bound. That's okay. So then you're getting about 20, and let's compare that with deadlift. Okay, those numbers seem to make a good amount of sense. Alright, so I think that about does it for this one. So thanks for watching.